and a historian based here in Penang. I've lived here for 15 years, and we've been involved in a number of projects, the fort, etc., etc. So Michelle's kind of enlisted me to give you guys a bit of a history about where you are. And the reason why we wanted to start you here was because Penang actually started here. So Francis Light actually landed just here. We know this by the logbooks and the maps that we have. So in 1786, this is where he actually began Penang as it is. So the fort that you see there was started by him literally the day that he arrived, and it was originally built in wood. And then in 1793, are there any French here? Any French people? Oh, good. Okay, so in 1793, England was at war with France, and he then started building the fort out of brick. So that's how that started to change. The padang that you see here, or the paddock as it's known, was built by him as well. So this was land cleared so that if he was ever attacked, then basically there was a killing ground that people would have to cross to get to the fort. And that's why these areas, you see them here, you see them in India and around, there's always a large space. So if you take yourself back to that time, 1786, 1800, there was nothing in this entire area at that time, just this little bit here. But by 1800, there was a two-story bungalow on this piece of land here, and it was the first piece of land that was sold in Georgetown. And then there was another two-story bungalow where Town Hall is there, both owned by merchants of the British East India Company. So these two pieces of land were the first two pieces sold and the first owned. And the guy who owned this, a guy called Halliburton, then went up to Penang Hill. Do you guys know the Bellevue Hotel on Penang Hill? Okay, so Halliburton, that's still called Halliburton's Hill. So that was the first piece of property that was sold on the hill, and he built his bungalow on the hill. And this was then rented out to British East India Company captains who arrived in Penang at that time. So fast forward a little bit, 1815, everything now is starting to be built up in this area. Light Street's already there, Love Lane's already there, Beach Street's already there. But in 1815, there was a massive fire that took place here, and everything in Georgetown burnt down, including this double-story bungalow here. So the only one left standing was actually this building here. And that ground remained empty until 1870, when they built Town Hall, which was when that was created. This building was built in 1900, and there was another amazing bungalow behind it that was demolished at the same time for what is now Dewa Shri Penang. So this area back then was full of double-story, very wealthy landowners in this particular place. If you move forward again, and again it's why this area is so historic, if you move forward to 1900, the clubs have started to form in Penang. So you've got the Penang Club, which is already operating now for the expats. You had a two-story cricket club, which is where that little castle is now that you can see. So there was a big two-story European cricket club there. And across on the other side, just outside the fort, was the Eurasian Cricket Club. Obviously Asians and whites weren't allowed to mix at that time. And even women weren't allowed into the European club until 1922. So if you came to watch your husband play cricket, you had to sit outside in the sun while he stayed inside. How things change quickly. So the Japanese invade in 1941, and you've got two cricket clubs and a bandstand where that rounded off area is there. The Japanese bomb this area extensively. The cricket clubs disappear with the bombing, so does the bandstand. And the cenotaph, which was built in 1914 to commemorate First World War dead, is also blown up. The Japanese then invade, and they build warehouses in this area. So where you're looking now and you see grass, they concreted that entire area over, and there was nothing but warehouses. And they housed torpedoes here because German U-boats were actually coming in and getting rearmed just down at Weld Quay. And there was a railway station pretty much from where you're standing that started there, that went all the way through to Weld Quay. So the area was entirely different. When the Brits came back, the Brits actually did more damage bombing Penang than the Japanese did, and there was no need to because the Japanese had surrendered. And a lot of the buildings, the very ugly building that you guys will pass as you come down past the Queen Victoria clock tower, there was an amazing Victorian building there that got bombed by the British, and they bombed it because it was home to the Japanese intelligence service. So it was basically them making a statement: we're coming back, and we don't want you guys around. So this area stayed like that until 1950, and then the Brits demolished everything in this area here and turned it back into a padang, and of course cricket and everything else resumed at that time. So as you guys can see the big flagpole that you're about to drive past. Yeah, just in the distance, that big shippy flagpole thing. Okay, so that was standing in 1941 when the Japanese bombed. And the reason why they bombed this area extensively is because there was a Union Jack flying on the flagpole. And the Brits had already deserted Penang. They'd left a week before, but they'd forgotten to take the flag down. What that told the Japanese was that the British were still in control. And of course, they didn't find that out until many days later. So what you guys are going to do now is you're going to jump back in your Trishaws before the storm hits, and you're going to go down Beach Street, which is one of the first streets. Then you'll continue into Church Street and a few of the other streets down there, and then you're going to meet back at a secret location. And then you'll be met by someone else who'll give you a bit of a talk, and then I'll give you a bit of a talk just to finalize this area. And then it's just dinner and drinks. So keep in mind, just visualize this. As you guys are traveling on your Trishaws tonight, and what we're trying to recreate is what Penang was like 100, 150 years ago. This is how everybody traveled on Trishaws. So you're actually getting a Trishaw view of what they would have seen 100 odd years ago. So enjoy it, guys, and we'll see you back at the house.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And try and get